So we've got extremely powerful reporting capabilities all the way down to the file level. So you've got a question here from Zach Coleman, backup errors. Does it report what files are skipped? Absolutely. If I go back, I can see through slicing this report up, I can see every file that was skipped. So on this particular report, we can see that all of these files were last modified in July, and they were all last backed up in October. So we're cool. But back on this session report, if we go to the top level, you see here it shows number of files unchanged. So I can actually drill in and see what files SOS considered but skipped if it wanted to. I've got some other questions.
Address Ruben there?
Yeah, so Ruben's question, is Pulse designed for my business to use or for my clients to use? We're going to talk about that extensively when we come back to the deck. Do you want to do that now, Jeff, or do you want to do it when we...
We can. But just in a nutshell, Ruben, and we will pick this back up, but the answer to your question is yes, and that's one of the exciting elements about having this type of robust reporting and management platform, that it is allowing you through your managed services to more efficiently deploy and service your customer base. But for those customers that have that requirement themselves, or perhaps for others that you don't manage their facilities, it allows through your resale of the Pulse, rebranded Pulse, to allow them to do that for themselves. And you also retain oversight, permitting of course, into the types of activities. So if you're holding on to, say, a level 2 type of tech support for a company, you will be able to see what is still going on within that deployment.
Yeah, and we're going to dive into how you could sell Pulse to your customers in a minute. So let's just round out the demo. So control is the third big category of functionality, and control is really about policies. Now, we already saw earlier on in the demo how I can view my deployments and which deployments have policies applied. But let's look at the policies themselves. So we can see some policies here. I'm going to drill into this demo policy of John's. And what you'll see is policies are pretty simple. Policies associated with a Pulse admin account. And the policy has an interval, in this case daily, a time, in this case 2 p.m. A policy has a backup set, and we'll look at how you can specify backup sets. It has a description and a name. So if we look at this, the format of our policies takes, it's very similar to the old ini file format actually. We've kept it very simple, and this will be, this will be extended in future, but we wanted it to be as programmable as possible, so that you can specify policies in text files. And you can see here that this policy simply says that any deployment under this policy should back up the C Intel folder and should back up the C file that doesn't exist .txt file. And across in my deployments, what we're going to see is we can see that this guy here is running that John's particular policy. If I wanted to filter by policy, I can filter by John's workstation. I can see which 3 deployments are running the John workstation policy. And that then leads to events. So if I then look in my event report and I want to look at, say, backup policy, the event I'm looking for actually is server policy applied to client. Now, what we'll see here in this one, again, this is pretty cool. You'll see warning, partially applied backup policy to backup deployment 5 on Wagner LT for this user. Warning details are, warning 1, the file, the C file that doesn't exist was not found, ignoring this file for policy application. So the idea behind that is pretty simple. The Pulse should be as robust and self-healing as possible. And if a policy goes out and can be partially applied to a node, it will be. So in this case, obviously when we set up that policy, we were trying to demo this feature. So C file that doesn't exist doesn't exist. So Pulse has actually backed up C Intel, but it hasn't backed up C file that doesn't exist. That gives you a sense of sort of the power of policies. Now, you can have up to 500 different policies in your system, so you can really use that to manage a lot of different infrastructure and a lot of different clients' infrastructure. And that's a pretty good segue, I think, back to our PowerPoint deck, because the next topic is target markets and how you're going to sell this. And we've got some questions rolling in, which is terrific. So let's look at these questions, and then we'll probably answer them as part of the discussion. So Sachin Agrawal, I hope I'm saying that correctly, says, can we manage deployments through the web versus the local network, which we saw in the demo? So Sachin, it's absolutely web-based. So you absolutely are doing it through the web. All of your management, reporting, and control is through the web, so you don't have to have on-site access at all. That's the whole idea of it. Zach Coleman asks, oh, sorry, we already answered that. Yep, we can report on files that were skipped. David Hatfield asks, as a rebranded reseller, can we sell this to other IT firms so that they can sell and manage our branded solution? Absolutely, David. And to Jeff's point, I think that's probably one of the most exciting parts of Pulse is that I'm going to come back to this slide. Well, so this is really the slide that's germane. How do you sell Pulse? Well, for those of you who are exclusively managed service providers, then you just roll Pulse into your existing suite of managed services. And so you would talk to your customers about how you're doing all the backup health monitoring and reporting and control and policy management, et cetera, for them. For those of you, and most of you fall into the second category, where you're a mixed mode reseller. You've got some managed service customers, but you've got a ton of just straight product or service customers as well. For those guys, you're going to sell Pulse to them so that they have their own Pulse deployment and they can then do their own Pulse management. A lot of your customers are going to want that, frankly. So the pricing on Pulse, Jeff's going to talk to. What that means is that you stand to make $500 to $1,000 for every sale that you make when you sell Pulse to your customers. So we'd be encouraging you to get this out and sell this to your customers as much as possible, because you can make really healthy margin on the sale of Pulse to your customers as well. So on this slide, the little diagram at the bottom sort of denotes deployment scenarios. And let me see if I can zoom that in, because I know it's pretty small. So scenario one, the red diagram, this is a managed service provider who only sells managed services. So in this case, this is the partner, and he's got two clients, and they're both managed service companies. The reason it's all red is because this is one Pulse deployment. So in this case, we've deployed Pulse, and partner's using Pulse. Partner is using Pulse to manage this company's environment and manage this company's environment. So that's one Pulse deployment. Now, scenario two is probably more common. You've got a mixed service product provider who has a couple of customers who are managed service customers, and a couple of customers who don't do managed services. They just buy, say, service from you, for example. In this case, the colors again denote Pulse deployment. So you can see we've got three colors. We've got three Pulse deployments. So non-managed customer A gets his own Pulse deployment. Non-managed customer B gets his own Pulse deployment. And then the two managed customers are on your shared Pulse infrastructure. I hope that is clear. All right, so we're now approaching, I think, just straight Q&A. We've got a few questions coming in here. David Hatfield asks, will this cost us more money, or is this one of the new features that was promised as part of our original investment? That's a great question, David. Jeff is going to talk about how Pulse is being priced and offered. Generally, as a company, we offer a lot of technology for free, so all of the stuff around protection that we offered at the beginning will be going out to all of our T1 partners. And depending upon what level of partnership you've got with us, you may be entitled to Pulse as part of that partnership. I'm not familiar with your particular account with us. But Damon Morris and Derek Wood in the account management and PDT team can definitely help you with that. So Jeff?
Yeah, the exciting thing about Pulse and the opportunity that it presents is this is truly a revenue generator. And that's exciting in the way that you can present this to your customer base through either the volume licensing packs or on a one-off type basis, further promoting your brand, and also looking at the early adopter we have is the $995 with a retail of just shy of $2,000. So from a margin and profitability standpoint, it's tremendous per each of your clients that you're bringing this into. So there is a huge opportunity to, one, more efficiently be able to manage the services that you currently are offering and deepen your penetration there. But secondly, for those that are considering getting into the managed services industry, this provides a great gateway into that and to take advantage of the greater profitability associated with bundling your services along with online backup through a true managed service environment. So this, through Pulse, will enable that type of opportunity for you. So we're excited for that. And we think through really those two main core elements, through the managed services and then through the resale into your client facilities that wish to do this on their own.
And that's really going to enable our partners to sell more backup, because if you can sell Pulse into your client sites, well, now you can go out and you can sell a company who's got, say, 2,000 PCs. You're still going to make most of your money on the backup that you sell to that company with 2,000 PCs. But you've now got a product that is, frankly, the only thing like it in the market. There's nothing like this in the mid-market. So from a competitive standpoint, not only do you then have all of SOS's core backup technology, but you've now got the most powerful management deployment framework out there. So it really opens up, very significantly opens up bigger market opportunities for you. It enables you to get sales where you're still making your 50-60% margin on the backup sold, but Pulse opens that up for you.
Derek? So, Derek here. So for those of you who have attended and gone through a couple of the sales and marketing webinars, we always go through a section that everyone's very concerned with is, how do you compete with commoditized products and services like Mozy or Carbonite or any other of the many providers out there. One way that you differentiate yourself and you get out of a price per gig shoot to the floor battle with your customers is by having a managed service in place like we've built here with Pulse. Previously, we'd always recommend getting something like SpiceWorks or IT Control Suite, but now within the same framework built specifically for SOS, we have a managed service package that can get you out of that commoditizing shoot to the floor. So now you can get your overall service package, whether it's a price per workstation based on assumed averages of data creation and data consumption, so usually 5 to 10 gigs, but without getting too granular, now it gives you the ability to not just sell backup, but really to give a true managed service, and also with the machine details going more into every other aspect of the network and later versions of Pulse, it gives you also a built-in tool for that.
And fundamentally, it helps you sell more backup. I mean, that's really the most important thing here for partners, is that Pulse enables you to sell more backup. And that's really where the margin and volume is. So Pulse enables you to sell terabytes upon terabytes of backup to your clients, rather than just perhaps selling, 50 to 100 gigs as your standard